Hello and welcome to Squib TV. I'm Samuel Layton and I'm joined by James Cartwright. And today we're going to be talking about
a review of Week 4.
So Week 4 threw up quite a lot of interesting results. Some sides getting wins that we didn't think we were going to get wins. Some sides getting defeats that we weren't expecting to lose. Anything that stood out for you, James?
Yeah, well, the first game that really stood out for me was a 6 p.m. game over here, 1 p.m. in the US, and that was the Rams going to the Cowboys and winning 35-30. Just getting it done. Todd Gurley in there getting himself a TD and an impressive game. Probably the most impressive player on the Rams is a player who probably doesn't get enough credit, and one of the best kickers in the game. Greg Zuerlein kicking 7 field goals, and given that kickers miss field goals quite frequently in the league now, to make 7 in one game is quite a phenomenal feat. Jared Goff looked confident in the pocket. They were on the NFL show on BBC. They were sort of analysing how he's improved, and his footwork has drastically improved this season. He's not nervous in the pocket. He looks like a confident NFL quarterback stepping into the pocket, making connections. He's got numerous targets now. Woods, Cooper Kupp. There's probably more that I can't think of.
People like Sammy Watkins, who people leave on their bench in fantasy, of course.
See that, Sam, and this is the quality of this offence now. They've more than good enough to win the NFC West, I think.
Yeah, I think the Rams are a massively impressive side. Goff, for me, is one of them QBs who looks like he's going to be definitely the future of the NFL now. Now he's actually decided to sort himself out. Last season was quite weak. This season looks a lot better. I think when you talk about Greg Zuerlein, that's a key player that sometimes is missed out on these NFL rosters. I look at guys like Zuerlein, Tucker, Matt Prater as standout guys for me who are, when they step up, they don't often miss it. And you go the opposite end of the spectrum, players like Chandler Catanzaro, who seems to be missing 1 or 2 field goals a week now. They did come up clutch this week, actually, in a win to the Jets. But it just shows how important that position is. Another kicker who was key this week, actually we will talk about at some point, James, but anything else you want to talk about with the Rams and the Cowboys? We talk about the Rams being good. Were the boys bad, or were the Rams just better than them?
Actually, the Cowboys sort of got themselves in a lead and then possibly giving up too many yards. Big loss for them this week. I believe Sean Lee was missing in the defence, the linebacker, and I think he's the main guy in that defence. I think he's a great leader. Always seems to make the plays. But the Rams are a very good outfit. They're a bit of an unknown quantity. You never know what you're going to get from them. But yeah, they're a good side now.
Yeah, they go 3 for 1 after that victory. After this game, we've got the Patriots at home to the Panthers, losing 30-33. What did you make of that game, James? Was that a surprise?
Do you know, it wasn't particularly a surprise to see the Patriots defence struggling again. It's become a theme of this season. I can't put my finger on the reasons why they're struggling. I'm not a defensive expert. I don't know whether you can sort of point to why you think they may be struggling.
I don't know if I can talk about them in terms of this season, but I know definitely in terms of the Panthers' offence, Cam Newton, when he's on form, is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He certainly had an MVP calibre game this week. Finding his big targets as well, I think that's one of the things that the Panthers bring to the table. Big wide receivers, Devin Funchess having a game, 2 touchdowns, 70 yards, Kelvin Benjamin making plays. I don't really know if when that offense is firing, if you've got a defense that with corners that can compete against those guys. I'm talking 6'5", 6'6" wide receivers, guys at the size of tight ends with pace going down the side, and I think that's probably what's got the Patriots unstuck, especially Devin Funchess with a big game. But personally, I think more praise has to go to the Panthers' offence for coming out this week. An offence we've seen struggle in the past rather than the Patriots' defence struggling. But I think that is something that Bill Belichick's going to want to sort out, hopefully by the end. Well, they'll have to sort it out pretty soon. They're 2 for 2 now, and they're actually joint second in the division with the Jets in the AFC East. Yeah, the AFC is surprisingly looking competitive this season. But if there's any side who can sort out this sort of problem, get themselves out of the crisis, to the New England Patriots. The Bills are leading that division now, aside that, I possibly didn't favour 2 weeks ago. I didn't think they were going to be very good at all. But, they've come in with Sean McDermott, is it? Yeah, Sean, the former Panthers defensive coordinator, is now the head coach. One thing to mention, actually, that the new head coach is looking good, actually. Yeah, McDermott looks good. Bills 3 for 1. Rams head coach Sean McVay, they're 3 for 1, looking good. Broncos head coach, Vance Joseph, that's one. He looks good. The Broncos look good. They're a decent side anyway, but I think it's, these head coaches coming in, especially in terms of the Rams and the Bills, maybe playing a different style, which is quite refreshing to see. I quite like that these head coaches are changing things up and seeing teams like the Rams go out and take it to the Cowboys. But yeah, just to quickly go back to the Panthers game, I just want to give a shout out to Julius Peppers, 37 years of age, NFC Defensive Player of the Week. And this guy was coming up against Tom Brady this week, and he's dominated the game there. And also a shout out to Graham Gano, iced the first time, didn't take the kick, second time, sends it through, last minute winner. The guy who was fighting for his place as a starter in the pre-season after having a great season in 2015, struggled last season and looks like he's back to that form. Panthers looking like, to me, they're building back up to that form that they had previously. What about Brady and the Patriots? Did they look any issues offensively for the Pats?
No, well, they scored 30 points on a very good defence. I mean, arguably one of the best defences in the league, so no concerns there. Brady taking a bit of a battering, possibly too much pressure on his shoulders. He can't do everything. He can't always get them out of the hole. You thought he possibly was going to again this weekend. I
think the Patriots, I think what they need is a running back for me, which I think would be someone who can, a consistent guy who they can go to time and time again, who's going to take the pressure off Brady. The guy is 40 years old, coming up against the Panthers defence that are hard hitting, do get a lot of sacks, do get a lot of fumbles, do make plays on the ball. The defence wins them games. I think coming up against a side like them, if they had a solid running back where, yes, he might not be rushing for yards upon yards upon yards, but he's a guy who's going to get you 3 yards, 4 yards, giving Brady a couple of plays just to settle it back down again, and then he's going to fire it over the top to a man like Brandon Cooks, who's going to be burning down the sideline. But very good game there, and obviously a nice win for Panthers fans there, 3-1 now, and interesting to see the Pats 2-2. I think that's one thing that I think most people other than Pats fans will be quite pleased about. Next up, we've got the Steelers 26, Ravens 9 at M&T Bank Stadium. Solid win for the Steelers. What did you make of that, James, as a Steelers fan?
Well, first win at the M&T Bank since 2012. As I came on the preview show and said, it's always a close game between these sides, but this was an absolute breeze. I was really surprised at the ease that what the Steelers got going. I think Le'Veon Bell, 144 yards, 2 TDs, had his breakout game. He struggled the first 3 weeks of the season. He finally got it going. But the Ravens, I think, probably says more about their placement than the Steelers' placement this current time. The Ravens just not the side they were. Flacco, people are saying, is he no longer elite? Has he ever really been elite? But, struggling. 2 interceptions for the Steelers' defence. Real lack of a running game for the Ravens. Lack of anything else, really. I mean, they don't really have many reliable receivers. Macklin's in there, but possibly not targeted enough. Mike Wallace is all right here and there, but no longer the player he was when he was at Pittsburgh. And I say, it's a bit of a damning thing for the AFC North, but I think it's one of the worst divisions in football now, when just a few years ago it was arguably the best.
I was going to say, actually, yeah, I think it's probably, not undoubtedly, but I think it's up there with one of the worst divisions at the minute. Other than the Steelers, who are a very good team.
It's not competitive.
The Ravens, the Bengals and the Browns are not going anywhere this season. I think the Bengals look like they've been picking it up recently. Browns still just look like the worst team. A Browns team that you can't help but feel disappointed by the Browns this season. I think we all had high hopes for them, and even people who aren't Browns fans just want to see them at least be competitive in games. I think when they faced the Colts and the Bengals, we expected them to maybe get 2 wins there. But they've been beaten heavily by the Bengals and
by both teams in the end. But.
So yeah, it was certainly that game shows to me that the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. I think as early as week 4, I'm going to say that they're going to make the playoffs quite easily in this division.
The Steelers need to start looking at getting the top seed in the AFC. I think that's, especially with the Patriots struggling. I think the Chiefs are the main team they have to go. The Texans are going to be in there, I feel, on the form of Deshaun Watson early on. So it's going to be a decent chase for that AFC title.
Yeah, well, that's the games. So we're going to now move on to our players of the week. Right, James, so the first player of the week that I want to discuss is a man that is a rookie this season, Deshaun Watson. Can you tell me anything about him? What was impressive this week?
Well, 285 yards, 4 TDs against a divisional opponent, an important game that they needed to win, and they can make some real ground in the AFC South. And he just looks comfortable. He looks like a ready-made NFL quarterback. He looks like the player that the Texans... I mean, I'm saying this only after 2 weeks of him playing, but he looks like the player that the Texans have been crying out ever since the franchise started back in 2002.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Deshaun Watson. I think he's probably the best QB to come out of this draft class as of yet. Kaiser's been very good as well, but I think we need to see Trubisky, who is going to get a start next week. But yeah, Deshaun Watson, fantastic game, dismantled the Texans, absolutely spot on. The Texans fans will be absolutely loving him. Another player that we've got on there, Greg Zerline, we didn't mention him. 7 field goals. Just reiterate, James, how important it is to have a good kicker on your team.
Well, I think that makes a difference between winning championships, losing championships. To have a solid and reliable kicker, and he seems to be able to make field goals from any sort of range. And this was a guy who had his record broken last week. He made the longest field goal as a rookie back in 2012, and that was broken by Jake Elliott. So he comes back and kicks 7 field goals, which looks easy but very hard to go.
Just want to think to go back. How many Super Bowls have been won by a field goal late on? Numerous have been won by a field goal. So to have a guy who can kick it and accurately and consistently is a real asset to a team. Another player that we've got on there, Le'Veon Bell.
Mentioned him earlier, but
yep, go on.
He's got himself going, and he's going to be the key for the Steelers. He's got 39 touches in this. He got many touches, possibly more than he would need. Got battered up a bit, but running hard yards against the Ravens. Usually tackling defence. But yeah, they're my 3 players of the week. Have you got any of your own?
Just one guy I'd like to mention. I want to give a shout out to, well, 2 guys actually. First of all, a shout out to Devin Funchess, obviously as a Panthers fan. Devin had a fantastic game, 2 touchdowns, looks like the guy who is now the number 2 receiver. And another guy I want to give a mention to, even though Jack on the other side of the camera won't like me doing this, Travis Kelce, what a game he had for Kansas City.
He did have a really game.
Proven to me and proven to me, and I think probably to yourself and even Jack, that the Chiefs do look like an actual contender this season, which is why I predicted them to go all the way to the Super Bowl. But we have been Squib TV, and this is all we've got time for today. So we're going to wrap it up. If you have anything to add, please comment. Follow us on Twitter at Squib_TV. Give us a tweet, please. Let us know what you thought. Like and subscribe. We'll be back with a preview video very soon. Thank you for watching. pick apart a defence, but if he had that option, he'd bring the play action into the game, he'd maybe get his receivers half a yard, and I think that's the difference maker for me. I think the Lions are that far away from being elite, and I think if they keep the players that they've got, they can certainly improve in the next few years. Yeah, so what's the next game we've got?
Do you mind if I just can edit this down? Right, the next game we've got is the Eagles overcoming the Giants in this NFC East encounter, 27-24. Jake Elliott 61 yard, winning it dramatically, and Giants going 0-3. Got to be concerned about them.
Yes, but no. I think the Giants 0-3. It looks poor, but I think I saw signs in this game there where the Giants were solid. I don't want to take away from the Eagles in this game. I think the Eagles came out and played better than the Giants. That's why they won the game. The Giants, I don't think, were particularly poor. Yes, they went 14-0 down, or was it 21-0 down? They went down quite somewhat, and they came back. Odell played fantastically. Sterling Shepard arguably had a touchdown chalked off, which gave Odell the opportunity. But I think I think the Giants, they showed positives there. Olivier Vernon goes off hurt. That's not positive. But I think 0-3, it looks scary. My early prediction of them making the Super Bowl seems highly unlikely. But I don't think it's panic stations yet for the Giants. I think they'll win in the next couple of weeks. If they don't, if you're talking 0-5, 0-6, I think that's when curtains for Ben McAdoo, and I think the Giants need to improve. The one thing I will say, they actually got a worse record than the Jets at the minute, which is embarrassing for them, as the Jets are widely regarded as the worst team in the league at the moment. Yeah,
well, I would say fourth quarter they actually made some impressive plays on the offense, came back into the game, actually were leading the game, and it's just, they would have won that game if Jake Elliott hasn't made that ridiculous kick. You don't expect him to make that kick. Odell Beckham coming back into the side and slotting straight and looking like the play he always was. You got Evan Ingram to come in there and sort of make more impressive plays as the season goes on. Eli Manning just needs to sort himself out. Not just him, the offensive line more so. It's not doing particularly well.
This happens to Eli more often than not, and I think that it's not actually on Eli, like you say. I think it's more the offensive line. I think it's more the players that aren't making plays. I think Eli, the guy's got 2 Super Bowl rings. He knows how to play. I just think that he needs his playmakers to step up. And the Lions, the Giants. One thing they haven't got very similar to the Lions, they don't have a running game. They've never had a running game really since when we became fans of the NFL. That's something they really need. Just pick up a back in the draft who's going to just next year just go, even regardless of your holes that you've got in your defense, just get a running back, please. Just free agent draft, pick some guy up who's going to get you 4 yards a carry, at least something like that. Someone who can go the whole game and can at least get some sort of positive yardage. If they have a running game, they'll be a better team. I don't think it's panic stations yet. I think that division, it always goes up and down. Yeah. The boys don't look as strong as they did last year. The Eagles look better. The Skins have been a surprise for me, but I don't think it's time over just yet. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think that it's a must-win game against Tampa Bay next Sunday. I think they need to win one of at least the next game. Just because I do think that division is very competitive. All the sides look pretty solid so far, and there's not much room for the Giants to slip off. If they're in another division, say the AFC South or one of the more poorer divisions, I maybe would favour them a bit more. But I think you've got to be thinking could be curtains them if they don't win on Sunday.
Yeah, I think they need to get the win there. The other game that you've got here is Cowboys 28-17, Arizona Cardinals. Relatively decent game. One I didn't actually catch myself, so James, you're going to have to talk us through that one.
Yeah, this was a real good encounter for the first 3 quarters, I'd say. It was to and fro, both sides going at it, touchdown one end, touchdown the other, a bit like a basketball game at some points. And then it sort of just got away from the Cardinals. Larry Fitz did all he could, but they just didn't have that option. David Johnson being out, didn't have the option to run the football as much. Chris Johnson did all right. I mean, they were stifling the Cowboys for the first half, and then Ezekiel actually made some runs in the second half, managed to get himself a TD, as did Dak Prescott. And the thing I've said about this game is Dak Prescott managed to make the plays when it mattered, and Carson Palmer just didn't.
I think the one thing I would say for the boys, like I said, I didn't watch the game. A big comeback against that Broncos defeat when they got absolutely battered. For them to come back and be a decent Cards team. Yeah, the Cards haven't been as impressive. Don't have David Johnson, but good win for them. Broncos gone and lose to the Bills, so it shows what this season seems to be like. But yeah, very impressive performance from the Cowboys to win it. And like you say, if Dak Prescott's out there making the plays, showing that he's maturing, even he was a mature young man last season, but he's been even more mature this season. Takes the weight of the team on his shoulder, and you just hope for the Cowboys' sake that he can be a bit less injury prone than Tony Romo was, because undoubtedly even Tony Romo would have won a Super Bowl if he was healthy, and I think Dak Prescott could be that guy who can do that for them. So I think I actually, one of the teams that I worry a little bit about the Cards in at the minute. I think that division's a lot stronger than it seemed to be at the start of the season. Rams looking decent.
I think the Rams look better than the Cardinals so far.
I think it's going to be very interesting. Hawks been quite poor as well, actually. So
the Hawks have been average. I think the Rams, are really up to win that division. I think possibly, but the Cardinals, I never trust Carson Palmer. I just don't think he's the man who can, make the plays when it really, really matters. It's probably the reason he's fell short of really making a dent in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they need to look for a new QB in the future. The rest of the team looks good. Maybe another receiver with Larry Fitz getting on.
Can't do it all.
But speaking of